Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I'll just give everyone a second or two to join. Give me a wave if you're joining. Say hello. Hi, Robin, Alec, John. So we are here tonight to talk as part of the Hello Student Festival, which has been going on over the past couple of weeks, I think, the Upskilling Festival. And from what I hear, you've had loads of amazing stuff going on, like, what do I see? Making nut butter cookies, embroidery tutorials, and some mentoring chats. So that's what I'm here for tonight, for another mentoring chat. So I'll give everyone another moment or two, and then we will get started. Drop a hello in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from, what uni you're at, if you're at uni, what you're studying. And by all means, you can leave your questions too. There's normally like a question icon to the right where you can add a comment to leave a question. So hopefully I see those, but I will get to those. So my name is Elle. I'm a fitness professional. I'm a blogger. I'm an influencer and a self-appointed creative entrepreneur. I'm based in Essex or Greater London. And online, especially after everything that's been going on over the past year. So I currently teach classes, online classes. I do personal training, that's also online at the moment. I work as a consultant in the tech industry, but in fitness. I manage my blog and I manage my social channels. And this talk is kind of like, and if I knew then what I know now. So I'm sharing with you everything that I wish I knew then. But I know it now and I can share it with you to help you find your way if you're interested in working in the fitness industry. So yeah, before we get started, just let me know where you are, what uni you're at. If you're going to stay tuning in, if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the comment box. So I always loved sport in school, in high school, and I also really loved drama and I loved science. And then when it came to choosing my A-levels, I kind of had to choose between them all. So I ended up choosing PE, which for me was a science and sport. So I could be active and learn all the science behind being active at the same time. I did a couple of other subjects, I barely remember what they are now, like business studies. I think I did a chemistry A-level and I did a biology A-level. I then went on to university. I went to the University of Brighton, the Eastbourne campus, where I studied exercise science. I started off with sport and exercise science and then just majored in exercise science before I started working in an office job in sport development when I graduated. In that job, I trained up to be an instructor, a personal trainer, and I started working for Nike, which was a pretty cool job to land, like in the early days of teaching. But they were doing this project where they were trying to get women in universities, young women in universities to be active, and they were looking for instructors, and it was a really good fit for me. Then I went traveling, I came back, I started working in high-end athleisure, retail, and teaching in studios, and just some other opportunities in fitness where I really got to try out different roles in the industry, including working as an ops manager, operations manager at the Altitude Centre in the city, and a few other things. Then I started my MSc, so my Masters in Management and Business Innovation. That was about 3 years ago, so I graduated from that in 2019, end of 2019. And although it was not fitness related, it was fitness related for me, so I have a real passion for the business of fitness, and I did my dissertation on F45, if you know it, the studios, all about the franchisee model and what it was like being a franchisee of an F45 studio. During that time, I also worked for a brand who do, how do I call it? An aggregator. They have classes from studios that are not being sold to the studio's customers, and they sell them on as a package to other clients. So yeah, my focus over the past few years has really been on my MSc, on my blog, on being an influencer, and being working in consultancy. So I think over the years, as will most people have had, I've had my own set of setbacks, but I do think they've definitely helped me to grow. I'd say most recently, one of my setbacks is just that imposter syndrome. And I think women tend to feel that a lot more than men. I joined a platform called Clubhouse, and there's lots of fitness professionals on there. And sometimes when you hear people speaking and they're like, oh, I've got 20 years in the industry, I've got 25 years in the industry, I've got 30 years in the industry, you start to wonder if how many years you have in the industry is enough. So that's definitely something that I have experienced. Let me quickly grab this question. How are you going to change working post-COVID? Okay, good question. And yes, Tess, thanks for joining. Imposter syndrome is massive. So yeah, I'm sure I'm not alone there. I know I'm not alone there in suffering from that. I'll answer Imogen's question now. How are you going to change working post-COVID? It's changed so much. 100% it has changed so much. So before COVID, I was teaching in a studio. I had planned a trip to Australia for 7 weeks to travel, and I didn't get to do that. So when COVID happened, I ended up taking everything online. And I think post-COVID, nothing's really going to change. I'm not planning on going back into a studio. I'll talk about that in a bit, but it's mostly due to the pay and due to the travel and just the overall experience of working in a studio. And I think most jobs will stay remote working for as long as possible. So I don't think much is going to change, to be honest. It's still going to be a lot of working from home, but hopefully with like more leniency, I will get to go out more into studios and outdoors and enjoy the outdoors with people who want to be active. We've got a question here. Says, how do you combat imposter syndrome? Yes, it is so hard. And I don't even know, but I think you just have to really, first of all, identify that that's what you're feeling, and then you need to get yourself in a headspace and a mindset to just know that you are enough. You're enough. Like every person's experience is so different. So comparing ourselves to other people, which is what is causing this imposter syndrome, in my humble opinion. Just remembering that, you know, your story is different, your journey is different, you're at a different place in your journey, and just trying to focus on what you're doing, where you've come from, and where you're going, is how I would say is a way to try and combat imposter syndrome. Don't know if it 100% works. It probably works temporarily, which we will take, right? We'll take that. I think another setback that I've had is looking after myself, balancing injuries and balancing physical stress. Working in the fitness industry, especially if you're working as a studio instructor, gym instructor, or a personal trainer, can be a really active job. I teach 8 to 10 classes a week at the moment, which is not a lot. It's a very low amount in comparison to how many classes other instructors teach. And in those classes, although I'm not doing them, I am moving a lot more than I would be if I was just, say, sat at my laptop. So that in itself is physical stress on my body, and that in itself impacts my own training. So I find it can become quite difficult, and I can become quite tired, and then I don't get to train for myself in the way that I would like to. I think I've tried to overcome that by really focusing on self-care and taking time out for myself. And I think that's something that we all need to do right now, whatever situation you're in, whether you're studying, whether you're working, wherever you are right now, it's probably something that you need to do, focus on self-care. So I try really hard to keep my schedule as lean as I can, and to really think about how I am scheduling things in over the course of a day and over the course of a week, to make sure that I do have enough time to rest, to sleep, to keep that balance, to get time to do my own training, and keep on top of how much I move in order to not make myself injured. Because again, if you are doing an active job in the fitness industry and you are injured, that will impact your income. Talking of income, I think it's a good thing to cover, talking about the fact that the majority of roles in the fitness industry will be self-employed. So that's also another decision that you need to make when you decide if working in the fitness industry is for you or not. When you're self-employed, it means that you don't have a contract of employment, but you do have a contract per se. You don't get the same benefits as someone who's employed, so you don't get paid holiday, you don't get sick pay, you don't have like the same job security, and those are probably the cons, but there are lots of benefits as well, in that you can say no. You get to work in jobs that you want to work in, and if it's something that isn't a good fit for you, you can say no and you can walk away. It does mean that you have to manage your money really well, because your tax doesn't come out of your pay slip every month. You don't get a pay slip every month. Your tax has to be paid at the end of the year, and normally if you pay your tax at the end of the year, you also have to pay a proportion of what they think you will have to pay for the next year. So you have to plan really well financially to keep on top of that. And if you do take a week off as self-employed, it means you don't get paid. So it's kind of like a double whammy, because you pay to go on holiday and then you don't get paid, so you kind of lose out twice, but you get a holiday. And you get to choose when you have your holiday, and probably don't even have to ask anyone if you can take the time off or not. As long as it works for you financially, you can do it. And that probably actually leads nicely into my next point about another challenge, which is learning to take a break. When you are self-employed and you don't have a regular or a certain amount of income coming in every month, you do start to like feel a bit anxious about, will I make enough to pay my bills next month? And then you start saying yes to everything, which then leads to you moving more, which then leads to injuries. So learning to take a break is so important. Again, it's keeping that balance, it's keeping you well in mind and in body, to make sure that you can do your job to the best of your ability. Like, you give your best self to your clients, and you give your best self to yourself as well, which is important, right? Another setback, I won't call it a setback per se, but I'd say another thing that was super tough for me was the audition process of, especially if you want to be a studio instructor, where you have to go along to a group audition and teach in front of everybody, and then they decide if you get the part or not. The job or not. I say part because it does remind me of being in drama school, and I guess if you're an actor or actress or dancer, you go to auditions all the time, and then they decide if you get the part or not, which it does kind of feel like that. And like I said, I had a real passion for drama back in high school, and it was something that I couldn't pursue because we can't do everything that we love all at the same time for a degree. So yeah, I do kind of feel like I still get to live my best stage life, teaching classes, kind of like getting on stage and putting that mic on and giving all your energy to the class. So I've got some tips and hacks for you if you want to get into the fitness industry. My first tip, I'd say, is to speak to as many fitness professionals as you possibly can to help you figure out the path that you want to take. My inbox is open if you have any questions. Well, you can ask questions now, but if you have any questions later, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to drop me a DM. But yeah, speak to as many different fitness professionals, studio instructors, yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, personal trainers, level 4 GP referral. There's so many options, and those are just like the active jobs. Then you have jobs working in fitness as maybe a studio manager, or maybe you want to open your own studio or open your own gym. What else can you do in the fitness industry? Maybe you want to, I don't know, create an app and deliver your own classes, or become a weightlifter, train people who want to do weightlifting competitions and they want to do those kind of things. So many options. If there's any jobs that you're considering right now, pop them in the comments and I can give you some tips on that specifically. But otherwise, find people who are doing those jobs or similar jobs, find out how they got to where they are, find out what training they did, what they recommend, any courses they recommend. And then I'd say that in the fitness industry, and probably with most like qualifications, your real learning starts once you get your qualification. So it feels like you're learning a lot when you're doing your level 3 gym instructor, level 2 gym instructor, or level 3 personal training award. But actually, that's only like, I don't know, 12 weeks maximum, I think it is. So your real learning starts once you are qualified, once you're let loose, once you can train people. You start to understand what kind of clients you'll be working with. You start to understand how it is to work with clients, and how to build relationships, how to build communities. So yeah, I think if working in the fitness industry is something that you want to do, you just want to get that level 2, get that level 3 as soon as you can, and get started. The earlier you start, the better, the more experience you'll have. Which leads me nicely onto finding your niche. So once you do have that really, really generic level 2 or level 3 qualification, and you start to train people, start to teach classes, you'll find those niches you're really passionate about. Personally, I ended up working with a focus on women. It's not exclusive, doesn't mean I don't train guys, but whatever I do, whatever energy I exude, it tends to attract women. I focus a lot on body weight, especially now we're in lockdown and not everyone has equipment. So I do a lot of body weight stuff. And I think that comes back from my days as a Nike trainer. The Nike Training Club program was, I think, probably 100% just body weight. So that's something that I became interested in and focused on. I'm also really focused on running. So a lot of the classes that I teach, I will always relate the benefits of those classes to runners, and the same for cycling. So for example, I do a core class, and having good core strength is really important for cyclists and runners. It's really important for everyone, but it's especially important for cyclists and runners. And I did previously really love doing weights with the bar. I used to teach a class which was kind of like body pump but at a boutique studio, which I absolutely loved. My other tip would be just to be curious and never stop learning. They all kind of like feed into one. So once you got that qualification, you really do start your learning. Then you start to find your niche, and then you just keep on being curious, keep on learning. When you become a level 2 or level 3 instructor or personal trainer, you do have to do CPD, continuing professional development, every year to show that you are continuing to develop professionally. I think last year I did a little workshop on foam rolling. I said to myself when lockdown happened I was going to try and become the queen of foam rolling, so that's what I did for my CPD. And there will always be like areas that you could develop into. So for example, I've got friends and colleagues who specialize in pre-postnatal training. For example, I'm also pre-postnatal qualified, and they do lots of training around the pelvic floor and around the core, like learning to use your core properly. There's so much. You could go and specialize in nutrition and maybe even become a nutritionist or a dietitian. I've got friends that have done that too. And maybe you might decide you want to become a physiotherapist or an osteopath or chiropractor, who knows? There's so many different avenues of learning that you can go. And then above your level 3, you've got level 4 qualifications, which specialize in things like working with clients who have had cancer, working with clients with chronic back pain, and what's the other one? Oh, GP referral, so that you can train people who have been referred from your GP. I think that's it from me. Any other questions? No? It's quiet. I think I talked non-stop for like 20 minutes, right? If you've got any questions, now is your chance. Otherwise, just let me know if you found that useful. You can drop a comment below, even if you're watching this on a replay. But yeah, you can find me over on my Instagram, which is L Linton. I think it's tagged in the title of the Instagram live, and this will be saved here on Hello Student so that you can watch it again. And if you do have any questions, please do just follow up with me. My inbox is always open to answer any questions about working in the fitness industry.